And welcome to another Biddle on Saturday night. How is everybody doing?
Yeah, cool.
Good.
Fantastic.
Right. There's Nate.
Fantastico.
Fantastic. All right, we have an awesome show lined up. Zeb has some killer news, announcements to make. I have an announcement to make. And we also have Jacques Raymer from Mokoloo Core here. How you doing, Jacques?
Welcome, Jacques.
I'm good, thank you.
Well, Mokoloo Core is the distro of the week, and I'm sure we have a lot of opinions on it, be it good or bad.
Okay.
But who wants to go first?
Why don't I go first? Because I did not have much time in it. Booted it up perfectly fine in a VM. The only issue I really had with it was when I went to install it the first time, it froze up at about 30% of the way through. And I saw this on another distro before, and I don't remember exactly what it was. And I think with that distro, it filled up with memory. And I don't remember what happened this time.
I know what the problem was.
Okay.
Your lack of patience.
No, it legitimately froze up. So I don't know what happened, but it froze on me. I got sick and tired of waiting. I gave it like 5-10 minutes, and I was like, okay, that's it. And I had to kill it. Came back a couple days later and tried it again, and it went perfectly fine. Other than that, yeah, it's fine.
Okay, but you didn't get to spend a whole lot of time this week with it, is what you're saying.
No, I did not get much time with it. I got to install it, and that was about it.
All right, so let's just go in order here so I don't miss anybody. Michael, did you get to try it?
I did get to try it. I didn't get a whole lot of time with it. So one thing I actually liked in the install is just some of the way it guided you through it. It was a bit different. The actual part where you had to close the windows kind of threw me off. I was expecting like a next or okay or button or something, and you have to close the window. But the only other thing kind of really that I was wondering about ultimately is, I know the mouse gestures were a big deal. If Jacques gets a chance at some point, I would like to ask just ultimately what was kind of the goal with the whole mouse gesture system and using the mouse as much as he did. I think overall it installed fine, and it seemed to be running okay. I noticed it took a little bit longer to start up, but maybe it was just something weird about my setup.
Jacques?
Yeah. Actually, if you don't mind, do you mind if everybody just goes around and just gives their positives and negatives? Yep. And then I'll address, because I'm making a mental note, I'll address it all later, because I don't want my introduction of Mokoloo or what to influence people's whatever they're going to say.
Yep, I agree.
That's okay. Okay.
But on a side note, Jacques has a 8-minute video on YouTube talking about the buttons not being there. I watched that. That was great.
All right, so pause the stream right now. Everybody go watch that video.
No, it was, I just have to say, I'm watching this and I'm chuckling inside because, Michael, I said the same exact thing to myself, like, where is the buttons? Where's the next button? Yeah. I even like made the window bigger to see if it was there and it wasn't there. And I watched his video on it, and he's like such a developer. Like he's saying, in this video, he's saying, why do I need a next button when there's a close button? Does the same exact thing. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. I love it. All right, we'll get back to that. Paul.
He's muted, Paul.
Oh, sorry about that.
It's all good.
Yeah, I really liked it. At first, I had a little issue with my laptop, but I got it running pretty good on there.
Now, you usually run XFCE, don't you, Paul?
XFCE or KDE, yeah. So, but yeah, I actually really liked it with those. It pops up with, what do you call that? With the menu, hot corners.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I like that.
All right, Chris.
Well, I was having initially a hard time getting the install going, basically because none of the window dressings were popping up. And I think after about the fourth time of practicing Insanity, I finally got it to the point where I had the close button, so I was able to continue on with the install. I think that was more of an XFCE. I've had that problem before, more than the distro itself that was giving me the problem, because ever since then I have not had a problem with it whatsoever. I really do like the presentation of the desktop, and the fact that I can get down to the root without doing sudo all the time. I really kind of like that as well. But there was a couple issues. One that I don't remember right offhand. Major issue that I had is that on the lower end hardware that I was having a little bit of hardware failure with as well. Having the multiple input types, either using the wheel or going down to the hot corner to do the menu, or using the cool bar, having all those scanning for input at the same time seemed to hurt performance a little bit on this machine, and I tweaked it as best as I could. I know what it was. I was trying to pull down some information on building a kernel under the Mokoloo distro, and when I tried to install incurses, it said that there was a package that required incurses, but incurses wasn't on the system, and it doesn't know how to install it on the system. So there's a broken package, and I just started doing that this afternoon, so I wasn't able to fully investigate, find out where that was or what I had to do to fix it. But I've been using it generally all week, and found that other than finding the wheel a bit more cumbersome than helpful, going right to the hot corner and being able to type in a search for the command that I want, or using the submenus. I really like this distro. It's really good job.
Very nice. Peter, you are up, sir.
Thank you. So I installed a Mokoloo on real hardware on my Optiplex. Had no problem at all installing it. Just closed the windows and kept on going. But I installed the developer edition just to try a different edition from home or whatever, and it all went well. I really like the developer edition with all the different IDEs and different packages for development. So that is very well suited and very well chosen. I do use XCFC a lot on when I'm testing a distro, but I really enjoyed the experience and all the different options, and just learning how to do the gestures and hot corners, and I had fun with it. But one thing, and this is not a negative, it's more funny. My wife came in while I was using my Mokoloo. I said, "Oh, come and see this. Come and see all these features." And I had Compiz turned on, so I had wobbly windows, and I was showing her the GNOME Pi at the same time, and I forgot she has had vertigo in the past, and she couldn't watch it. She got sick watching my screen with all the movement. But I was okay. I was more for her. But that's not a negative. The only issue I really have, I do like the web apps, reminding me of Ice and Peppermint. I really like the web apps. But when they're along the top and you open something like a browser, the web apps are on top of the browser settings and you can't see a lot of the menu. So I thought it'd be set below the web apps, but it's not. You can move it, of course, but by default it's not. The web apps are on top of the window. but otherwise, I had a great experience.
All right. Visanth, did you try the Mokoloo Core?
No.
Nope. All right. All right. Moving on. Barbara, you are up.
You're muted, Barb. You're muted, Barbara.
I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I used the live USB. I didn't get a chance to install it on any hardware, but I liked it. I thought it was different. The circular menus were,
the pie.
The pie. It's almost edgy, and I like that, but it doesn't work with the way that my workflow is, and I didn't really find anything that didn't work. The only thing I did have a question about was why Opera was the default browser. I guess I normally expect to see Firefox, but that's just me. I also like the way that the menu, not the menus, the windows, you could customize colors and the way the frame was and all that without changing the whole look of the distro. So that, you could just, like me, of course, I change it to purple and all that kind of fun stuff. And the other thing, and I love, this is just my first impressions, I absolutely loved the wallpaper. There's something there for everyone. Yep. The wallpaper is just, whoever did it, all the contributors to the wallpaper should give themselves pats on the back. It is, the images are beautiful. And there's something for everyone. My favorite was the octopus. I don't know why, but it just suited me. And now when it came to the applications, as I said, I'm surprised that Opera was the default web browser, but you can change that. That's no big deal. And I'm not sure, because since I didn't install it, I don't know what the default email client, and I'm assuming it was, and the Office productivity application, I'm assuming, was LibreOffice. I also like that there were 3 different ways, software centers, and that was nice. And then, okay, now my conclusions here. I would definitely recommend it to somebody who wants something different. I don't think for an absolute new user from either Windows, especially from Windows, or from Mac, it might scare them away from Linux a little bit because it is so different. But I think once they had a basic idea of how Linux worked, it would, if they want something a little different and whatever, I would recommend it. I didn't have any errors, any problems with it, but I didn't install it because I didn't have time. So anyway, it's a good job. I really enjoyed it.
Well, we would offer them Lindos probably.
Oh, well, yeah, that could be. But I think it was fun. It was very refreshing. And I think that's what I liked.
All right. Well, I did get to install it. The first time I tried to install it, I let it sit there for about 35 minutes, and I knew there was a warning somewhere. I had read a warning, and I don't remember exactly where it was, about that it could take a certain amount of time at a certain percentage and just let it keep going. But like I said, the first install 35 minutes, and I just had to kill it. Second installed way faster than that, although it did take a little bit of time. Let's see my notes here. The first 2 screens, as Michael had pointed out, were, like I said, you're expecting that next button just because that's just the way it normally is. But you hit the close and it works perfectly. I think it was nice to see that it was put in there to allow somebody to change their system right when you first set it up. So it's not like you have to go into a settings panel and go find this, how do I change this look or that? It's given to you right as soon as you start up. So if you look around, you can see that there's a lot of hard work involved in this distro of customizing it. There's a lot of thought involved in it. There's a 3D on and off button in the settings. So I guess that's to turn on and off Compiz, which I thought was awesome to have it be there like that. The only thing that I didn't. The only thing that I would have wished was that it had stayed between reboots. So every time you reboot, it doesn't stay on. So if you put it to on, I think it should stay on until you shut it off, type thing. The Mokoloo toolbox has all kinds of different information in it, including a place to install your graphics drivers. So that was a plus for me. Now, being Debian based, it only has the 390 drivers, but at least it has that in there to install them. I love Variety Wallpaper. That's like one of my favorite programs ever. And although I can't have it on KDE because it doesn't work well, but I think that is a great thing to have as default in something. And the hot corners I thought were really nice. They were set up well, but for me, with a multi-monitor setup, and I don't know if anybody else experienced it, but it didn't work as intended, I guess. So your bottom...
I 100% agree with you on that, Rocco. I have the same dual monitor setup, and it just doesn't function properly.
Yep. So you're expecting it to be in the left-hand corner of your primary monitor, which is my right monitor, but I have to go all the way to the left corner of the secondary monitor to actually get to the menu. Little things like that need to be either, I don't know, I don't need to know if they need to be addressed, but they don't work well or as intended with a multi-monitor setup. And of course, XFCE itself has high DPI issues, and there ain't much you can do about that. But other than that, I thought it was really a nice setup of an XFCE desktop. So I liked it myself. Big Pod, what do you think?
I sadly didn't get to check it out since my laptop is kind of broken currently.
Why did you break it?
As you see by my camera, a hinge on it broke. And
why did you break it?
I didn't break it. Hinge broke because plastic. I need to get it to the shop on a Monday, and I didn't touch it, anything, just what I needed to for work.
All right.
Duct tape and baling wire.
That's it.
Yeah, but it's 5 months old, so
duct tape is everything.
Warranty is a thing.
This is true. All right, Colin. What do you think, man? You're muted. That's what I think.
Am I?
There you go.
Okay. Where do I start? These things I've been playing around with for many years, could never get them going properly, but I really enjoy some of the things Jacques done in this system here. I've messed around. I think he must have XF dashboard, I think, but also I like the web applets. I think they're quite awesome. They work pretty well, but I'm on a bit of a low-spec laptop. It's a modern one, but low-spec, but it does, like he says, it does drive up the RAM usage a bit, but it's still handling it okay. So I think they're pretty good. Couple of things. I cannot get into my Windows network shares. So from Thuna, I can actually SMB in the address bar to my modem by the IP address, but it won't work just double clicking on the Windows network. So I don't know what that's all about. And also in settings, when I click no on the 3D on and off, it just keeps, the mouse keeps spinning, so I have to close settings and open up again. And it does the same thing with the web applets as well. So I don't know what's going on there. As long as you close it, open it back up, all's fine, but it just keeps spinning for ages.
You mean when you click on it, but then you say no, you don't want to turn it on?
Then you say no, yeah, it does that. So that's what I'm experiencing. That's with the web applets and the 3D on and off. And I think you touched on the 3D as well. It should stay on, or there should be, normally Jacques has options. He's pretty good with options. So I would have thought that the 3D on and off would have had an option. Do you want to start up? Do you want this to automatically start on your next boot or whatever? Normally has those options, but he didn't on that occasion. So, yeah, you just got to turn it back on when you start up. So that's one thing I noticed as well. But all in all, it's working pretty well. On the low spec, it's running quite well. So, and the menus, the hot corners and that, I've messed with those before in XFCE as well. So he's got them. For me, I'm only on a single screen, so it works well for me. So GNOME Pi I've played with a little bit, but it's not really up my alley, really, GNOME Pi. So, but that functions quite well. it's quite a nice little thing to play with. But I'd rather just use the traditional menu after a while. But yeah, I've enjoyed using it, so it's quite good. Very creative.
All right, Tyler.
Unfortunately, I got real busy throughout the week and did not get a chance to try it.
That is no excuse.
But hey, I do have AL81 right here, so
yay! Go Kentucky!
All right, Chicken. Did you get to try Mokoloo?
I did not. I wasn't here last week or the week before.
I noticed.
Yeah.
But you are in the Telegram group.
That's true.
So you knew.
I've been frying chicken all week, so.
All right. All right, Scott, you're up, brother.
Yeah, so mentioned last week I've had Mokoloo installed for a few weeks now. One of the issues that I've been working on, thinking that I could somehow find a solution to this myself, is exactly what you mentioned, Rocco, and that's the orientation of the dual monitors. So when you pull up the utility for displays in a dual monitor setup, my left monitor is identified as monitor number 2 when it's not, and my right monitor is identified as number 1. Obviously in Linux Mint, it operates just fine and as normal, so I expected Mokoloo would follow suit on that. However, went in there and I noticed that you could rearrange your monitors, and I went ahead and did that and actually put number 1 on the left where it belongs. Well, that just interferes with other issues in the desktop orientation, including the fact I use a single double wide wallpaper. So with that setting being non-functional like that, in the normal position, the wallpaper is cut in half and reversed. If I put it back to the abnormal, then the wallpaper spans properly. When that's the case, then your menu, which has the vertical system tray, is now in the middle of the screen instead of at the side of one, and you can't move that no matter how hard you try. The docky you can move around, which is helpful, but not the system tray, which I think would be a more important issue. And I have found periodically when I reboot that the 3Ds that you're talking about, Rocco, which I don't know if it necessarily invokes Compiz or not, but it does change your window decorations to that see-through or transparent and bubbly and looks nice. Sometimes I reboot, it stays. Other times I reboot, it's reset. So it's an intermittent issue, so I don't know what to attribute it to. My install, when I first installed it, went really quick. I mean, it was under 10 minutes, but that could also be a RAM issue, depending on how much RAM you have when you start the install. I don't know. So aside from that, the software center, loved going into the software center and being able to search for software either in Mate or GNOME or any other software sources. Not a single button to install any of the software. So it's nothing more than a software list. You can't double click on anything that you find. There's no install button, nothing like that. So you inevitably wasted your time when you could have just gone to the CLI and searched for the package that you wanted and installed it that way. Or use the package.
Are you talking about the GNOME software or the Mint software, Scott?
Software Center.
I guess that's the Ubuntu Software Center, right?
It doesn't even say it doesn't say Mint. It doesn't say Ubuntu. Or either way, it just says Software Center, and you can refresh with the Mint repositories, or you can refresh with the GNOME repositories. Either way, you go in there to install anything you found, and there's no install button. There's no button to click on. There's no double clicking on the icons to launch a deb package installer, nothing like that. So
well,
I didn't
find
find
with you. I'll be honest, I didn't open it up at all. I did everything with my script. So
yeah, I noticed that there was Synaptic on the submenus. I didn't use Synaptic. I just went to the command line and used apt all the time.
That's right. And it does offer you the Synaptic Package Manager, which you could go to that way. But yeah, it's just, if nobody had seen this before, I'm sure they'd have been frustrated right off the bat. I was actually hoping over the past few weeks to see that something may be updated to address that, but nothing's been done addressing that. Other than that, I really liked the web apps bar. I liked the fact it's customizable. You could add web apps of your own, launch them quickly from there. And one issue I'm still working on is the fact that the default clock on the desktop causes the screen to flicker every time the minute changes. So I get a flicker every minute. I can't find a way to remove the default clock even while adding conkeys for other styles of clocks and widgets and whatnot.
You might that might be on the wallpaper changer. They have a default clock that's just a standard feature of that wallpaper changer. So the first thing I do, because it is quite annoying, as you say, every minute your whole screen just goes blip, blip,
flick. Yep.
So go into the wallpaper changer, go into the settings, and there's a thing there that says a nice clock. Turn that off, and you won't get that anymore.
Never thought about that. Thanks, Zeb.
That's all right.
That wraps up my review.
Well,
Okay,
to
just
touch
one
on
thing-
your, go ahead, Zeb.
Sorry, just one thing for you. On your vertical panel that you're talking about, that you're saying you couldn't move, that's a standard XFCE panel. So if you right mouse click and go panel preferences, you can click lock panel, and then you'll get two little bits on the top and the bottom, and you can move it anywhere you want on the screen. Once you've got it where you want it, lock the panel again. That's a standard XFCE feature.
Right, but and the problem I had was I could move it anywhere on the current monitor that it's on, but I couldn't get it to move over to the other monitor.
That's also in the settings. If
Is
you
it?
right click and hit
Preferences,
properties.
yeah, when you've got output, you can say automatic primary monitor 1 or monitor 2. That's
Yep.
on the very first screen of the panel settings.
But I feel your pain, Scott, on the monitors, because every time you go and you, like for me, you have a multi-monitor setup, there's the primary monitor that I want to use is never the default one. It's always backwards for some reason for me. So I have to end up manually moving like Plank and like you did with the system trad to move that over to the other monitor. And it's a pain that way, but that's just part of Linux right at the moment.
Yeah, well, I just found it contrasted with Linux Mint, where I didn't have an issue with it in Linux, and I thought, oh, well, it's just something that I'm missing in Mokoloo, where it should normally be operating, operating normally. I just can't find it.
Yeah,
Scott, I'm in the software center right now in the GNOME section, and I click on an icon, and it brings up a window with all the information and an install button. So there's no issue.
Yeah, they've both got install buttons. That's really interesting.
Nothing. And I've been using this for weeks trying to figure out, well, why? Is it like a really small hot spot that I'm missing or something like that? Or
no.
I don't know.
So when you click on Software Center, Scott, do you not get the option to go update sources, GNOME software, Mint software, or package manager?
Yep, got all of those and all the options at the bottom.
Yeah, so then when you click on GNOME software, it populates and brings up the standard GNOME software, which has got install buttons.
Except mine doesn't have install buttons for some reason. And when I do this, now when I do the search, I can, like say I'm searching a particular software. Hold on just a second. I can do the search and find the software that I'm looking for. I just can't. I can't see where there's a button populates for install.
Click on the icon, then it opens.
If you
so I double-clicked on the icon, which I figure is the same action as an install button. Nothing.
I wonder if you're suffering the same problem that Chris had when he was first trying to install it, and the window decorations weren't fully drawing, and therefore I tried another theme to see if that helps.
I actually thought about that as well. So I went into the theme manager, changed some themes. I went in and did a little bit of Compiz customization, turning on Windows decorations and turning them off, and even going so far as to go back to the default settings as raw as possible.
And still didn't happen.
What it is. I can't figure out what's interfering.
Wow.
Very
unless it's my graphics driver. Who knows? Team Red.
Uh-oh. That's a problem. No, just kidding. All right.
Calm down, chicken. Calm down.
Mr. Kuber Nadies, what's going on?
Well, so I installed Mokoloo Linux, and I think it's a very well polished distribution. It's not exactly the polish that I like, but it is well polished, and I can see the design intent and where they're going with it. It all appears very well thought out, and once I kind of got used to the workflow of it, I could get my way around just fine. You know, it's like the menu. The right click for the menu, it pops up, and you get to whatever application you want. The middle click actually would bring up like a virtual desktop menu, so you could jump to different virtual desktops. I like that you could add virtual desktops dynamically. That was nice. The desktop appears to be snappy. I didn't have any issues with things flickering or flashing. I could install software, no problem. Maybe Scott, because it installed so fast, maybe it forgot some things for your system. Anyway, I like the slight translucency of the borders. So I chose. So when you first log in, you set the theme. So I set the theme that I like the most out of the options, and then gray, because I don't like too much color on my borders, and I like the slight translucency to it, but like with the kind of the sharp edges, it just was a nice contrast. Something I haven't seen really in a while. That kind of reminded me of the KDE 3 days a little bit, and I like that. The Snap and Flatpak applications installed without, right out of the box without any fiddling whatsoever, and that was nice. Very appreciated. I do prefer, using the Debian repositories directly, but it's nice to have that feature there. So I use the GNOME Software Center, although I like Synaptic, and I do prefer the command line for things. I tried to stay away from those two crutches just to use the GNOME Software Center. It didn't have any issues. It didn't work. It worked a lot better than Discover. So that was great. I like the subdued right sidebar and kind of like the system tray, like kind of a system tray on its head. I liked how it was just kind of just subtly there, and then when you brought your mouse over it, how it would light up. I really liked that effect. It looked really good. And also after it booted and settled on a 4 GB RAM system, it used less than 600 megabytes of RAM. So I thought that was fantastic. So there's some things I didn't like about it. I do like a virtual desktop pager, on the bottom or whatever, but that's this total personal preference. Now, again, I'm a biased OpenSUSE user, so we have to look at it from that perspective. I'm a little old fashioned, in certain things. I like a menu button. I like a pager icon. It's just me. There really wasn't like a full-fledged task manager on there. I do like to look down and see the task manager. Although again, a middle click on the desktop that brought up basically all the everything that's running and where they are on what virtual desktop. So that's kind of a moot point, just a different way of doing it, just not my preference. The web applets, I thought that was a really neat feature. I liked how that was there. It was really easy to configure. I could do whatever I wanted. But it did kind of crowd the top there. It would have been kind of nice if I could have, if it would be underneath the windows, or if I could throw it off to one side. So I ended up turning that off because I couldn't use Opera very well. When trying to resize the windows, it was a little bit challenging to grab the corners to dynamically resize them. Maybe it's just me, because I'm kind of a Magilla gorilla sometimes, so I couldn't grab it very well. And maybe there's a Mokoloo Linux way of dynamically resizing it that I didn't grok. And then
let me help you out on that one very, very quickly, Nate.
Sure.
If you put your mouse anywhere near a corner and hold down the Alt key and right mouse click, you can drag it any direction you want to.
Oh,
that works on quite a few desktops, not on everyone. So get your mouse anywhere near the corner, hold down the Alt, right mouse click, and you can drag the window up and down, left and right, do what you want with it.
Well, see, there we go. See, that's why I'm part of the BDLL community, because you teach me things I just don't know. So thank you.
That's one of the keyboard and shortcut command things that everybody who uses XFCE should know, because it's a lifesaver sometimes.
Plasma. So the only other thing that really kind of I didn't like was the and it was already been talked about before, so I'm not going to belabor that point. But I just want to underscore how much of a numpty I am on this. Through the installation process, it said to be patient on this window, so I was patient. I just waited for about 2 hours before giving up, and I decided to close the window. So there we go. I just kind of gave up, and I closed the window like, oh, well, now it's starting. I wish I would have given up sooner. But it told me to be patient, so I wanted to be patient. as patient as possible. And because I had other things, you know, I was multiplexing my time, so it wasn't that big a deal, you know, folding some laundry and whatever. And anyway, so just some sort of instruction that says close it or hit it or next button for numpties like myself, that would be great. And then overall, I really actually I liked Mokoloo. I thought it was great. It's not my workflow, it's not my preference, but I would encourage anybody who's distro hopping, has some different you know, wants to try out some different things, definitely try Mokoloo. It's a different way of doing some things, and I think it's pretty fantastic.
I would like to acknowledge I've never heard anyone say I wish I would have given up sooner before.
Oh my gosh, very good, Nate. Very good. Did you happen to have a article related to that?
Yes. In fact, I do. I'll put it in the chat thing.
Yeah, why don't you post that? All right, Dave, you are up.
Life invaded, but I did get a chance to install it and try it. I actually had fun in the live environment. It's the first installer that I've used in a long time that I had fun with. It took me, you know, 2 or 3 tries to realize to close the window to go to the next one. But once I figured that out, I had fun. I really enjoyed going through the software lists for the different desktop styles. And I really appreciated that he listed out what was going to be installed for each one, so I had a better choice. So I really enjoyed the installer. I liked that he said, and Rocco, it's 90%. When it reaches 90%, that's when it's pulling in all the stuff off the repositories, and it's probably going to slow down and wait. Just don't worry. And if you get asked on the next screen for a password, use Mokoloo. I very much appreciated that, because sure enough, hit the close. Please enter password. Oh yeah, Mokoloo. And it worked. It installed wonderfully. Got it opened up. I have to agree with Barbara. I use variety on all of my systems. And Rocco, it works fine with KDE because
it does not, David.
It does.
We got to talk
on Arch. On Arch KDE, it works fine. Okay. What I really appreciate how Jacques has it set up, though, is that every other time somebody has had variety pre-installed, I have to go in and instantly tell it, don't automatically download off things. And I very much appreciated that he had one folder chosen for it to cycle through. And I went through that folder, and like Barbara, I really appreciated the work that went into those wallpapers. Usually I have a folder of my own that has wallpapers in it that I normally blank all the others and do mine. This is the one time where I have left mine out and just left the system wallpapers in. I liked them that much. I didn't have a lot of time to play with it, but I liked it. It was smooth. The one issue I ran into is a problem of my own making. I was able to install the Nvidia drivers without a problem. They came in no problem. Rebooted, didn't have any issues. When I ran Nvidia settings to swap my monitors, because like Rocco, it's always the wrong one defaults to primary. But I ran Nvidia settings and I couldn't figure out where to save the configuration file. Because the place I have learned to do it recently is in the Etsy X11 Xorg conf D, and then have a file 90-nvidia.conf. And is usually if I put it in there, it'll stick and be fine. For some reason, this time I did that. It booted into the system, but then the desktop didn't want to fully load until I took it back out. So, and I understand that's totally on me not knowing where to save the settings. But other than that, it was nice. It was clean. It ran well. I really liked the way it was set up, the way it was designed. I liked the ability to theme the window dressings and little bits and pieces at a time. I liked the way the settings manager was set up. I went wandering through there for a little while. I've never used Software Center, so I can't speak to them. I'm always on the command line. But yeah, I really appreciated it. I can see, like Nate, it's not what works for my normal mindset and workflow, but it is a very nice polished distro that I would have no problem encouraging other people to try, use, and be happy with.
Yep, I totally agree. Pete is back. Pete, what's going on, brother? It's been like 6 months. You're muted still, I think. Or you're on the wrong sound output, one or the other. And Wendy is back as well. What's going on?
Not too much. I just finally made it. It's been a long time.
It's been 2 months, I think, Wendy.
It's the first time this year, I think.
Yeah,
So-
it is this year.
Did you try Mokoloo at all?
I didn't. I was just happy I got to join.
See, that's all that we care about.
Happy New Year, Wendy.
Good to have you back. All right, Adam,
How's it going, guys?
what's happening?
Oh, you know, just another day, just chilling. What's going on in here? I don't know.
I don't know. We're talking about an operating system.
Oh,
Did you ever
okay,
hear of
yeah,
it?
I like those operating systems.
Did you ever hear of it?
I think so.
Okay, tell us about it.
So, let me tell you something about free software real quick. No, I'm just kidding. No, I didn't use it. I didn't use it. No one's surprised. So, there's that.
Fine.
Unless Mokoloo is some code for installing Arch, you know, that's about all I've done.
Incidentally, on a side note, I got Adam to install Arch. I convinced him to
Yeah.
install Arch again because he's installed it before. But
Yeah, it'll blow up soon, I'm sure.
no, it won't. It'll
Don't
be
think
running
so?
fine. No, it'll be fine.
All right.
All right.
Solid as a rock.
Frank. Good evening, Frank.
I think I'm here.
You are here. What's going on, brother?
So I got a chance to run it, and I also took a little break. I helped out the Ubuntu guys in doing a little bit of their testing for their 1804.2 release. But in between, it's a really interesting interpretation of XFCE. I did have a few issues with the installation where there was nothing but the X, no next button to choose anything, and that's a little bit off-putting to a user. Everything is very, very cool. I did have one major issue. I did an update after the installation, after I played around with it, didn't make any settings changes, and it blew up the display completely. So I lost all of the cool features, window tearing, but I blew that install away and put another one on, and I didn't have that same issue after another reboot and update. So don't know what happened there, but the way the menus are done may not be how I would set up my XFCE install, but it is very cool. And that's all I really have to say.
Nice. Very nice. And welcome, Ritual.
How's it going?
What's
Can you hear
going
me?
on, brother? How are
Can you hear
you?
me?
Yeah.
The sound actually works. Well, I can't believe I actually was able to log in like kind of easily.
Dude, you've been in the YouTube chat forever. So
Yeah.
welcome to Biddle, brother.
Oh, thanks for having me. Yeah, this has been a long time coming, but
Yep.
finally got the courage to try it out and see if I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be a normal thing, but we'll give it a shot.
We'll bug you to come back on.
Oh, don't do that. I might never show up.
All right. I guess you didn't get to try out Mokoloo this week, huh?
I wasn't really that's kind of mouse driven, right? That distro.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
Right.
not really my cup of tea. I was tempted. I think I might install VirtualBox and maybe start joining in on the whole distro challenge.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just getting Zoom hooked up and set up was that pretty much set me back a full day, and that was good enough. Now I got to learn how to do VirtualBox.
There you go.
So, but yeah,
all right,
this is cool. Thanks, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, you are always welcome.
Yeah, cool. It was good seeing you guys all, and hope I'm not scaring you with my face today.
Have you seen Thomas? I mean, come on.
Hey, excuse me? Look at you.
Oh, man. Shots fired.
All right. Does anybody have any other words they want to get in on Mokoloo before we talk to Jacques about it?
Can I just say one more thing about the wallpapers?
Sure.
The wallpapers were so awesome that I grabbed the entire directory just so I can use on my regular XFCE install.
I love it. Yeah, and people don't care about this stuff, right? They, you know, when I used to mention about wallpapers and things like that, people don't care about that stuff. Yeah, they do. They care about it.
I do have one question on the wallpaper.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
That is when the whole menu is up and you click on the wallpaper and it changes to the one you want. How do you close it?
Right mouse click close.
Yeah, okay. Apart from doing the right click.
You can go back to the settings panel and click on the wallpaper changing again.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was trying escape and all this kind of stuff and but then I figured out you actually had to go back to the mouse menu. That, to me, that's a slight fault in that you would think you escape or something, or once you selected it or double clicked on it, it would go away. But no, yeah, I did figure out you had to go back to the menu.
Well, that reminds me, actually, on the menu. Now, I don't know if it had anything. I don't know if you guys experienced it or not, but on the menu itself, I don't know if it had anything to do with the multi-monitor setup and it not working right. But I couldn't navigate with the keyboard. Like, you could bring it up, but you couldn't. It wasn't in focus to type. And then when it was in focus, like when you put your mouse cursor in it to type, you couldn't actually navigate with the keys, the arrow keys, to get to what you were doing. So you had to actually click on it as well.
Yeah, that is the same as mine now. I'm just trying it now. It highlights it, but then I can't right click to get into the section. So yeah, that doesn't work. Yeah.
All right.
So last one up. And,
Zeb.
Yep. So first of all, I owe a quick apology to Jacques because I haven't been around the testing Discord channel for ages and ages and ages. I've been following Jacques since probably Mokoloo 7. His stuff is always clean and fresh and innovative. You don't necessarily always agree with what he's doing, but his mind never sits still. He always comes up with something new, something odd, something strange, but it's just great, and I love it. I've only got one big problem with Mokoloo Core, and I'll mention that on the proper Discord channel, is there's a permissions issue where one of my drives, for whatever reason, comes up and it thinks that the properties are owned by user 1000. It doesn't say Zebedee or Zebediah Boss and group Zebedee. So there's a really strange permission things going on. And I came across it as well with Salient OS. So I'm sure there's an easy fix for it. But because of that, I can't use it because it doesn't recognize my SIM links back to my Peppermint drive. So I have to enter all of my Thunderbird information again. It doesn't pick up my ETS2 profiles. But yeah, the thing I really, really like about the installs at the moment, and I think Dreaming Wolf touched on it, is the fact that you can go in there, you can pick a home, you can pick a developer, you can pick a gamer, and you can go into each of those sections and have a look and decide what you want to install first. So yeah, Mokoloo Linux gets a big thumbs up for me once we can fix the permissions issue. And it may have been just a little rogue install because everybody's been having problems with installs, but isn't that just Linux? One day it works, the next day it doesn't, so you reinstall it. Why didn't it fail again? Because it's just Linux. It's weird. But overall, yeah, I do like Mokoloo Linux.
Yep, that's the way it is. And I did notice, Zeb, on my end, my sim links worked all except one. the downloads folder was the only one that wouldn't link, and I don't know why. So there must be some type of permissions issue.
And that also may be due to the fact as well that when I go into Thunar and I click on documents, it said, "Oh, cannot find home Mokoloo user documents." It hadn't set up my own home shortcuts, so maybe there was something that went slightly wrong with the installer in creating the user. But I just deleted those ones and created my own shortcuts, and it's working fine. But it had the old. And we've had this problem before, Jacques, on some of your builds, where it just leaves some of the old live install stuff hanging around. So again, I'll jump on the Discord channel and report all of these properly through to you.
One thing I did notice was when I had to find out why I wasn't extracting the kernel to do the build, basically I ran out of disk space, and that's a problem with the hardware that I was using. But when I did a DF, it did have on the virtual running directories, it had 1000, user 1000, user 1. It didn't have the usernames, it used the user numbers. So I don't know if that's related to what you're having there, Zep.
All right, Jacques, you heard everybody. So what do you got to say, brother?
Okay, hi. Well, thank you for having me. And yeah, it's been quite interesting listening to everybody speak. You guys can hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Okay, so before I address some of those issues I heard and just everybody's opinion, I actually just want to sort of introduce the distro, tell you a little bit about it, the background, how it came to be. So I'm going to spend maybe 5 or 10 minutes just speaking, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
It'll be informative, I'm sure. Okay, so firstly, we're a small team of guys. We only have 2 developers, only 2. Me being the primary developer, and we have a second guy, Rindy, who's also in the chat channel. You'll see him, he's in there quite often. And I used to be the sole developer, and Rindy sort of started as a tester, then came in as a developer, and he's getting pretty damn good. I'm pretty sure one of these days he's going to kind of take over my job. But we're the 2 primary developers on the distro, actually on all 3 the distros, and we have quite a big team of testers. Now, I'm not sure big in terms of other distros, but we have about 30 testers. So the reason that it's polished quite a lot is because there's a lot of testing happening in the background. Some of the testers are in the chat channel as well. Some of them aren't. I won't mention names of the guys that are not in chat channel because maybe they wish to stay anonymous. I don't know. But the ones that you will see in the chat channel, I'll just give them a mention. Maybe they'll get offended if I don't. Joker, 90, Hamantha, you'll see in there sometimes. Larry, you'll see in there. Chris, Pizza Linux, Zibidi, Geek, and Glenn. I did say Joker, I think, yeah. These guys are testers, but also in the chat group, they also help regular users. So if you log into the chat group, into our chat room, they're always helping as well. Since they test Mokoloo all day and all night, they're pretty much experts on how it runs. So they'll help regular users set up drivers and tend to issues they have. So a big thumbs up. They are very hardworking. I mean, their primary job is to test, but they go above and beyond. So we're almost like a little family as well. We all hang out in Discord. We're all chatting all day long about anything and everything. And so it's a small group, but it's a dedicated group. So I just want to mention that. So that's the team. We're a very small team. Now to get onto the distro itself. We do a variety of distros, not just Core, okay? We as a group, we kind of want to be able to cater to everybody, not just a specific group of people. Now, Linux is, well, it's all about variety. It's all about choice. It's all about customization. It's all about sharing. It's all about open source. So the whole idea of Linux being anybody's whatever you want it to be. And this is what we build our foundation on. The fact that, you know, a lot of our work is built on other people's work, and whatever we do and we create, somebody else might put into their distro and make better as well. You know, that's the whole idea that drives whatever we do. And so we have Flash, which is sort of more to focuses more on the traditional layout, the old sort of maybe GNOME 2 kind of XFCE look and feel, bottom menu, a bottom panel menu on the left, you know, your very old-fashioned traditional layout. We also wanted to cater something to the guys coming from Windows maybe, and this is why Lindows exists. Now, I must admit, Lindows, my personal preference, I'd never wanted to create Lindows. It was something I was very against from the beginning, but you know, it started off as a little side project, and everybody seemed to love it. And you know, we had such a lot of positive feedback that we kind of kept going with it, and it kind of became a full-blown distro. So the only reason it exists is because people were literally harassing me to make it exist. That's really the only reason. However, that doesn't mean my dedication to it isn't 100%. Now to move on to Core. The idea of Core, it's kind of tough to explain, but have you ever had a conversation with other Linux users, and they'll sit around and they'll say, wow, you know, we've got Mint, and we've got Ubuntu, we've got SUSE, we've got this, we've got that, we've got, you know, all these distros. Why don't we take all these distros and take the best parts and put them together, and we'll have the perfect Linux distro? You know, you've always have some person saying something like that. Well, Mokoloo is kind of something like that, but on a much smaller scale. Because if you actually break down Core, not Mokoloo, Core, it is either a Debian base that we build on or a Ubuntu base, right? So the base is either Debian or Ubuntu. We have a KDE login manager. We got an XFCE desktop framework that we fork. We got a GNOME software center, a Mint software center, a SolidX driver manager, a Mint update manager, an AWN dock, a Plank dock, an Ubuntu Compiz system. Our constructor is forked from Refractor, and there's probably a little bit of remaster sys in there as well. We have a KDE installer, and the list goes on and on and on. We've got a lot of stuff from a lot of other good distros in Core. Now, there's a lot of us in Core as well, but there's also a lot of other distros in Core too. So I think Core probably wouldn't exist the way it does if it wasn't for a lot of other distros doing such a great job with their software. So I have to give a shout out to everybody else, all the other distros out there, whoever software we might have stumbled upon that was sort of helped us on our journey. Big thanks for you guys. And so I kind of feel also that a lot of the distros, a lot of the developers of distros, and I've spoken to a couple of them, they very competitive, which is good because competitive drives innovation. You know, but at the same time, they also kind of hate each other. Where we don't because like I said, we do, if somebody else does something that's great, it really saves us time. Being a small team, we can't always reinvent the wheel. You know, if we had to sit and make our own AWN dock from scratch, just being two guys, maybe possibly three, it will take us a year just to make the dock itself, you know, possibly even longer. Where it already exists, we can take it, we can just adapt the code, change a couple of things, and, you know, off it goes, it works with our system. So thank God for Linux being open source. That's really nice. But the idea of Core, other than what I mentioned, was it was designed to cater to a variety of different types of users. The guys that prefer, you know, sort of more the traditional style. You got the pop-up menu in the bottom left corner that pops up traditionally. To the guys that sort of like flashy things, you got the GNOME menu. NumPy menu, you've got the the Conky, you've got the Compiz. To the guys that can you still hear me?
Oh yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't. Okay.
No, I was
Sorry.
raising my hand because I'm the guy that likes flashy things.
No. The screen went jumped to another user's name. Sorry, I'm not used to Zoom. To the guys that like flashy things, we've got Compiz and so forth. To the guys that, the maybe the more younger crowd that sort of, they adapt very quickly to anything that's new, and they jump on things that are new, maybe because their minds are still sort of, just exploring everything. They might like the mouse gestures and the touch screen guys, because it can work with a touch screen. The touch screen guys might actually really like that, because if you just configure it slightly, it 100% works with touchscreen. You don't have to click or hold the button to do the gesture. You can just wrap your finger anywhere on the screen, and off you go. So that's pretty much Core in a nutshell. We try to cater to a variety of different users. Now, just because if you're not a flashy user, you don't have to turn on Compiz. That's why there's an on and off button. If you don't like no menu or NumPy menu, you don't have to move the mouse into the top left-hand corner. If you don't like a feature, don't use it. It's there, but it doesn't mean it's because it's there, it has to annoy you. If you don't like it, don't use it. That's how it's been designed. Therefore, everything is, out of your way until you need it or until you want it. That being said, also remember, this is the first build that went out. Okay, therefore we expected a lot of people that might like it, people that won't like it. A lot of, it's very hard to build something for whoever downloads it, 1,000 people, 1 million people, 5 million people, 20 people. It doesn't matter the amount of people, but it's very hard to design something that is going to cater to everybody's personal preference. Everybody's going to have their own way of, oh, this is nice, but I don't like it this way. Two things. One, that might be true, but things do grow on you very quickly. Just because you don't like something the first time you see it, it doesn't mean that, using it within a few days, you might not find 5,000 other things that you actually really like, and therefore you kind of adapt to the one thing you don't like. That I've learned with many things. I used to read so much, and many times I would pick up a book and I'd struggle to get past the first 20 pages. I just couldn't. And initially when I did, I couldn't put the book down. That's happened to me so many times. So that I think sort of sums up Core a little bit. It is probably going to be our flagship desktop. We spent a lot of time working on this. Another thing is, it is a DE, not really a distro. We have 4 projects in existence currently. 3 have been revealed, the 4th one hasn't, and I won't say any more on that. We've got Windows, we've got Flash, and we've got Core. There is a 4th one in the works, and that in time it will come out. However, we only built the base because the base was needed. Core is really a desktop environment more than anything else. The base was only built because we needed it. And we only built the base. We could have used somebody else's base. We could have just taken a Mint and removed their DE and slapped Core onto that, or Ubuntu, or just plain Debian. We built the base because we felt we didn't want to inherit anybody else's bugs. When somebody builds an actual base, I'm not talking about respinning. When they actually build a base, they've got all the source code. They control all the initial bugs in that base. So if you respin a base, a lot of the bugs you cannot fix. The original developer will have to fix it. They've got the source code. They've got the power to make those kind of changes. And we didn't want to use a base from somebody else and inherit their issues and their bugs that we cannot control. And so we spent a lot of time creating the base. And one of the reasons you'll see it feels so smooth and it feels so faster, especially with a few things that you might not expect the speed, is because we've built the base, and we've built the base to work with Core. However, primarily we prefer not to do the base building. We prefer to actually work more on the DE itself. And then something else I want to address, I know I'm giving you guys a lot of information all at once. We have a sort of a dual patch system. You've only seen the one because we haven't enabled the second one yet, but it will in due time. The framework's been laid down for it. A lot of the things that you see in Core, we try and leave as default. We try not to edit it. The software centers, Mint Software Center, GNOME Software Center, those are standard. We don't edit them, we don't touch them. As you see them, you use them. A lot of the packages that come through the Debian repository. And so a lot of that is all standard. So if you have issues with like GNOME Software Center not showing an install button, it's really not something we can control. We could probably address it. We can look into it. We could even take it up with the GNOME Software Center developers. But a lot of the software, individual software packages are straight from the Debian repository. So we don't really control those. And we prefer to do it that way because, like I said, we are a small team. And our focus is purely on what we've created, not really everybody else's third-party software packages. You know, we don't have dedicated 500 people sitting around just waiting to work on GNOME Software Center. Something else, the second we can, however, we did, and this is something that's really interesting about Core that also we've never seen any other distro do, is we can intercept packages. We can, if a third-party developer puts out, let's say, Compiz, Compiz developers put out an update, and that update breaks XFCE or breaks our version of XFCE. We can intercept those packages. We can roll back to a version that does work, or we can apply a fix and intercept that faulty package and fix it. Which a lot of the distros, I've never seen that feature anywhere else. So we have a secondary patch script that actually is able to bypass any kind of faulty packages. Now, we haven't needed to do that at any point yet, but the feature is there to be able to do that. So that is really nice, and that's something I'm actually dying to test. So I'm kind of waiting for a faulty package to come through. It's a bad thing.
Now, is that something that you would use on a, like it would break something in the distro itself, or would it be a security issue that you would use that for, to hold the package back?
Well, actually, no, it's not to hold it back. It's really to just address third-party apps. Like, for example, let me give you an example. Let's say you install or we put on some package, some software, some app, and the developer suddenly stops developing on this app. He disappears, because that happens. In Linux, it happens all the time. And a year later, he suddenly just pops up out of the blue, sends out an update and disappears again. And now you're sitting with this faulty app, and developers in the wind, or he doesn't care to actually make it work with a specific desktop anywhere. And it's very annoying, and you have this problem. And yeah, we have a secondary patching system that can apply patches to fix that kind of problem. It's very complex, so I don't actually want to get into it, because otherwise I'm going to spend 2 hours talking about it.
Right.
But we do have a secondary patching system that we are busy polishing, actually. We laid the framework for it, and we're actually going to be applying a patch soon that will use that system. So you'll probably see like a little red exclamation mark in the bottom right corner. It's going to pop up there. It looks like a little emergency buzzer. And if you click on that, it will say patch your system, and you will notice it's different to your standard update manager. It's like a secondary update manager. those patches specifically come from Mokoloo. When you use that system, it specifically comes from us. It doesn't go through the regular channels, if that makes sense.
Right.
Okay. So there are a couple of things. My point was there are a couple of things that we're still working on. Mokoloo, the core is still growing, and we do take a lot of this feedback, positive or negative. And we'll, this is the first time we actually put it out to the public. So we'll take a lot of the feedback. We've had some feedback that's actually made us think, wow, this guy's got a good point. Maybe we should do this. Maybe we should do that. So we do take the feedback, and we will build on that and polish it more, make it more presentable where it needs, and make changes where we need to, and put that out. So that's core. A couple of things, other things I just want to address. Some of the issues you guys spoke about. Okay, I've got a list. Yeah, sorry, I've got a big list. Okay, the buttons. I think I did address the buttons. However, there's probably a better way of doing it. I will look into the installer, the whole next button thing. I will look into that. We are looking at how to, the way we've designed those little menus, it really doesn't work if we put a next button in there. I've tried every other way. It just doesn't look right to me. It just doesn't fit. I can put them in there, but then they don't look right. They take up too much space. They put that little gap there that I don't like. Right now, the way it is, I just like the layout. I don't want to waste any space. I don't need to. However, I could probably put a little message in there or something. I could probably say,
That's what I was thinking.
To continue, hit X. I could probably do something like that. I'll find a simple solution to that in the future.
Do they use
to continue? Close this window.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Also, but yeah.
Do you make those windows using Python GTK or what?
Python, yeah.
Okay. I know if you're using Python GTK, there is a way that you can have a button take up multiple spaces, so it's taking up what space you have and not causing more space to appear. I actually was working on something recently that uses Python GTK. And that's what I was having to do, because if I didn't, it would look ugly. So there's a way you can do that.
Yeah, look, I know there are ways to work around it. It's just that I like the size of the window. I like it the way it is now. I just don't want to make any changes there that don't need to be changed. But
that's fair.
I'll address it somehow. I'll either put in a button, or I'll put in just a little extra little line there or something. But I'll address that. Because we installed ourselves 1,000 times every day, we never really thought, we didn't view it from a new user's point of view, and therefore we didn't have to sit and wait because we knew to click close. I guess that was just a silly mistake on our part, but it's an easy fix, really. It just we'll have to look at that. Somebody else gave feedback earlier on the web apps, saying that it's on the top bar and it stays on top of other windows. That is something else that I never really considered either. That I'll address as well. It's really easy. You just right click properties and you can actually set it to auto hide, IntelliHide. hide. There's a lot of options to make it hide or vanish when a window needs that space. But by default, it's not turned on, and that's probably something we should address as well. So that was a valid point I found. Somebody mentioned Opera browser. Why Opera browser? I think it was it Barbara?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we, this is I know browsers a touchy subject, because a lot of people like Firefox, and most people like Firefox, either Firefox or Chrome. They're the two favorites. And once you down to your browser, I mean, that's it. That's what you will use for life mostly. People have their tiles set up and their history and the import, and so it's very shocking when you suddenly install a distro and something else is on there other than what you expect. But we did test. We tested with Opera, Chrome, Firefox, and we looked at RAM consumption, CPU consumption, and we just found that, and speed, and we just found that Opera was faster. At least the initial build when we tested, because the next build might not be, but when we tested, Opera kind of beat everybody else at that time. They were faster, it used less RAM, it used less CPU, and it just supported more plugins. And this was what led us to choose Opera. I think Opera is really a hidden gem. I think it's not widely used and recognized because they stalled on the Linux development for so long. If you go into Windows, it's very popular. It's quite well known. A lot of people use it. But on Linux, they took so long to develop it. They kind of put it on the back burner and just left it. And Firefox and everybody else became very popular, and nobody really paid attention to Opera. And then over the last year, they suddenly started developing on it, and they made strides. And wow, I visited it about a year ago, and I was like, wow, okay, this is not really quite on par, and I don't quite like what I'm seeing. And then I came back again, like I do, about a year later, and I was like, wow, what they've done here is just. And so, yeah, I think that was just a choice.
Thank you.
It's quite easy. It's quite easy to install Chrome and Firefox, but I really felt we should try and expose users to something that they haven't used before, which is also, we like to do things different. And if we're just going to put on Firefox, everybody's just going to use Firefox. But if we put on Opera, they may use Firefox, but they may also just try Opera, and they may actually find they like it. And so it kind of just to expose people to something new, I guess.
Okay.
Would you consider putting in a browser ballot type chooser?
Well, when you do install some of the other layouts, it does install Chrome. Chrome does get installed as a secondary browser, but when you're in live mode, you'll only see Opera.
Okay. That makes sense.
Once you install like Home or Office or whatever, Chrome should get installed. So you will have that as a secondary browser.
Would you have? Could you keep it from? Do you have that choice to not install Chrome?
Yeah, you could choose barebone. Install your own packages.
Yeah.
Now the reason we chose Chrome over Firefox was, we went online and we actually went and looked at the statistics. How many Firefox users, how many Chrome users, and there were far more Chrome users than Firefox users. And I understand once again that this is both Windows and Linux combined. And I'm not sure there's actually been a study done to see separate, but we work on statistics, so we research, and we found that there are more Chrome users than Firefox users, and therefore Chrome was chosen as a secondary browser. There wasn't any that we prefer Chrome or whatever. It was just statistics. So if you are a Firefox user, it's really easy to install. We've made sure that it is in the repositories for the guys that do want to install it. And it's quite easy to remove Chrome, and it's quite easy to remove Opera.
Right.
So we can't cater to everybody.
I was just curious.
Cater to the masses. Again, with the multi-monitor setup, there are a couple of testers that do use multi-monitors. They are in the Mokoloo chat room. So if you chat with them, they will probably give you a couple of tips and pointers on how to do certain things on multi-monitors. We've got a guy, Joker, I think he's using 4 or 5 monitors all at once, including 4K monitors. So he's pretty much a guru on multi-monitor setup. So if you need any kind of advice or you stuck with anything with multi-monitor, he's in the channel almost all day, and he will really help you with that. I will say with the menus with multi-monitors, you can always open your main menu and drag the menus into your dock. Okay. So if you're moving your dock to a monitor that you want it on, you can actually drag the menu icon into the dock and just open the menu from the dock with just a click. Right. Much the same way you would on a traditional distro. So that is one way that you can easily solve a menu problem on a multi-monitor. Or if you don't like hot corners, if you don't like dragging your mouse into hot corners, because not everybody will like that, you can also drag a menu into a dock and just click it the old-fashioned way. You could also open menus just by hitting your, the default little Windows button, the little menu button on your keyboard. That also does open the menu. Then there was the 3D on-off, staying on when you reboot. We used to do that. Somebody mentioned it used to be in our distros, it would just stay on, but it doesn't anymore, or it doesn't in Core. We found that I don't know, recently that's, like I said, we try and keep a lot of things as standard as possible without meddling too much. If we do need to meddle on a package or a software app, I mean, if we need to actually adapt it to make it work, we will. But if it works by default the way it is, we prefer not to meddle with the code. Therefore, we let the third-party developer just continue working on the app like he would normally work on it. Compiz being one of those. They stopped developing Compiz for a long time, but I see they're developing on it again. So we've been getting regular Compiz updates, which is a really nice to see. However, one of the side effects with Compiz I noticed is it would just get so many issues with disappearing menus and buttons and things if we leave Compiz enabled through reboots. It just doesn't click too well with the XFWM window manager. And therefore, we just found it was just easier and less troublesome if we switch it off through a reboot. Therefore, when you reboot and it stays off and you kind of just switch it on again, you just have less issues in the long run. It doesn't affect all users, but it does affect some users. We had problems with it initially, and that was just an easy, quick fix for us. Just switch it off when through reboot, and it kind of just made all our problems disappear. I suppose it's something we could look at in the long run, but once again, it is a third-party developer, and so any kind of fix that we apply, they could just mess up with a single update.
Yep.
And therefore, the safest and more permanent fix is to just switch it off through reboots.
Or just assign a hotkey to turn it on when you boot up.
Well,
bind it to a hotkey.
I suppose we could bind it to hotkeys, but that's also personal preference, and not everybody's going to.
Yeah, anybody can do that right now as a workaround.
Yeah, but you do have to just right-click, turn it on. I mean, it's so easy to do. And then the closing of the settings window, when you turn it on, sometimes you have to close the settings manager and then open it up again. Somebody mentioned that. When you
that was me.
On. Yeah. That's also a sort of a side effect of Compiz with the XFWM manager, where you kind of have to sort of just refresh all the windows and things. It doesn't always happen, but it does sometimes happen. We are aware of that, and we may look into that at some point. But it was kind of more a visual glitch than anything else, and just a sort of a close and open fixed it. So we do. I just want to mention that I am aware of that.
Sure.
Somebody mentioned the wallpaper. How do you close the wallpaper changer once you open it? It's on the top. I think who was that?
That was Peter.
Okay. Peter, I think you misunderstood when somebody, I think it was Zeb, that said right-click close. I don't think he meant right-click on the actual ribbon, that wallpaper ribbon. Mm-hmm. You just right-click on that. There's a close button. You don't right-click and go back into the menu. Just right-click on the actual ribbon, on the wallpaper changer on top. Right-click on that. There's a close button. So you don't have to right-click on the desktop and go back into the menu and go back into wallpaper changer and then choose close, because I think that's how he understood you. You simply just right-click on the ribbon and choose close. It's one action. Okay, so it's very quick and easy to do.
Peter, you're muted.
Okay.
So I'm not usually muted. I'm just saying, as a user, it's not very clear to do that because not many programs have that. So.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make a quick point about the whole Compiz auto start thing. You don't need to have it enabled on startup. You can use systemd targets to start it after a certain event has been satisfied. So perhaps after a user logs in, enable it. So you don't need to have it on boot. You can have it after a specific event has been satisfied.
Yeah, but the problem with that is if we do it that way, then you'd probably have things start up that shouldn't start up, and then Compiz starts up as well, and you kind of use more resources.
Well, if a user's enabled Compiz, surely they would want it, right? Because this wouldn't happen unless
No. I don't speak about Compiz alone. You've got different ways of running Compiz. You've got your standard way of just turning it on, and it will run on top of your your current window manager, which means your current Windows manager is running plus Compiz is running, although Compiz gets the preferences, but you're using twice the resources. You understand? And then you've got a lot of workarounds on the internet. If you actually go and look, you can actually completely disable the XFWM window manager and only have Compiz running, therefore use less resources. So it's not just a simple, oh, let's just keep this on and let's just switch this on. There's certain things that need to be turned off when other things are turned on. And it gets a lot more trickier when you're doing that on different hardware with different graphic drivers. And it's just a lot more tricky than everybody just saying, just leave it on. We ran into a lot of issues with clashing with the startup of other window managers and so forth. It was just easier just to do that switch manually.
Yeah, I'm not saying just leave it on. What I'm saying is the same process that would go through when you actually enable Compiz.
Yeah.
So if I were to enable Compiz, you would more or less be calling the same order of functions after a specific event has been satisfied. So it's not like it's leaving it on. It's doing the exact same thing after that particular condition has been met.
We considered that as well, and initially that's what we did. That's how we actually have it on Flash and on the other distros. However, with Core, you have a lot more things booting up on timers, and you've got docs and stuff running in the background, and this starts up 10 seconds, and after 15 seconds, this boots up, and we've got Conky running in the background. There were just too many variables. It was just easier to turn off and then start it manually. Anyway, so that was Compiz. And the wallpaper changer. I also want to point out that we do have a bug reports option. There is a little button there in the distro to report bugs. So if people have any kind of problems or issues or any problems at all, there's a little bug reporting tool that takes you to our SourceForge page. We've got a nice little bug tracker system there. You can go fill out your little bug report, and people will actually tend to the bug. We can actually log it. It gets logged into a queue, and we can address it. And any future people that may experience that same issue can actually go to our bug report section and search the bug and actually follow the progress and see exactly how it was fixed. So yeah, we would like people to make use of that and not just pop into the chat room and go, oh, my monitors are not working. What do I do? And then leave. Because we do get a lot of that.
Yep.
So yeah, I think that covers pretty much everything I want to say. This is our first release, and it is Debian based. Now, being Debian based, it is sort of more for advanced users. Debian's never been friendly to new users to Linux. It's always been more difficult to install drivers, more difficult to do pretty much anything. And when we design a base, there are different factors that go into our decision. And this is something I saw Zeb the other day. He was on what was it? Sorry, let me just check here. It was on Destination Linux that I watched.
Mm-hmm.
I saw you speaking about Mokoloo. They were working on Ubuntu, and now they're on Debian. They seem to jump around a lot. There's a reason for that. Number one, it's probably one of our biggest weaknesses, but also our biggest strengths, I think. And that is that we're not scared to test untested waters. We kind of jump head in. And there's never the thing about, oh, this is not going to work. We make it work. We must make it work, You have this idea in your head, and the only way to make it work is to make it work. Now, we used to build on Ubuntu quite a lot at one stage, and the reason we originally built it on Debian, then we went to Ubuntu, and then kind of came back to Debian. Debian went through a transition phase where a couple of guys left Debian. I don't know if you remember that. It was like 2 years ago. So there were a couple of guys that left Debian, and there were a lot of faulty packages that came into the Debian repos after that. They went through it about a year that we were not quite happy with what we were seeing. There were a lot of faulty packages coming in. So we would work and we would create this awesome desktop environment, and everything would be nice and gel nice. And we spent the last month polishing something, and then they would send through a faulty package, and it would just send everything into chaos for the next 3 weeks. We would have to sit and adapt and fix, and it was just a nightmare. And that is where we actually switched to Ubuntu rather. And then Debian became more stable again. I think they kind of worked out through the issues, and so we kind of hopped back onto the Debian bandwagon because we always did prefer Debian more. However, like I said, we do want to cater to everybody, and therefore we are currently working on an Ubuntu Core variant. So we are building an Ubuntu base. And, you know, it will pretty much look just like the current Core. There will be some changes because Ubuntu is a very different system than Debian. And therefore, the software selection especially will be very different. The interface of the desktop interface will pretty much be the same. Of course, there'll be minor changes with a lot of the feedback that we've gotten. But there is an Ubuntu variant of Core coming.
Yeah.
And
very nice.
And that will probably be a lot more user-friendly because Ubuntu itself has more options, it's more user-friendly, it's not as tough as Debian. You know, for example, with Debian, there's only 2 ways to install a driver. There's literally 2 ways. One, do it manually. The old-fashioned way, dirty and messy. Okay, any new user to Linux, he's going to mess up his system a couple of times before he gets that install process right. Everybody's been through it. Every time, the first time in your life that you install Nvidia drivers manually or AMD drivers manually on a Linux system is probably the worst day of your life. You know, until you get through that process. The second way is through the SolidX driver manager. That's the only other driver manager that we know in existence that automates the process. However, it does not fully support switchable graphic drivers. Those are still tricky and messy on Debian. No matter how you look at it, it's a very messy process. In Ubuntu, however, all of this is automated. It's very easy. Just click a button and everything's done for you. So that's just one example of Ubuntu being very easy for newcomers. For new users, it's a breeze compared to Debian.
Quick tip for you there, Jacques. If you haven't seen it before, have a look at MX's NVIDIA installer. Very good.
Yep.
Okay.
MX Linux.
Yeah.
Okay. I really don't distro hop a lot, so I don't really get to see a lot of the other guys out there. So
well, Run with the Dolphin, who's in chat, is one of the lead developers for MX, and they got a Debian installer for NVIDIA graphics drivers. So.
Oh, that's nice. I'll have a look. Yep. Okay. So anyway, there is an Ubuntu variant coming, and that will be a lot more user-friendly for newcomers. Of course, the Debian is a rolling release where Ubuntu's based on on their lifetime. We will base it on, I think it's 1804? It's the one that's supported for 10 years. The latest LTS supported for 10 years.
They're not supported for 10 years. They're supported for 5.
It's only supported for 10 if you're an enterprise.
Yeah. Okay. You got to pay for those last 5 years.
Okay. Well, I suppose that's a user's choice then. Okay, we are basing it on the LTS version, so to minimum 5 year support. So that's nice. The other thing also I want to mention is that we also are working on a 32-bit and there's a PEA build and a non-PEA build as well. So users will be able to install it on their old 32-bit, their old 32-bit CPUs and even older systems. So there will be different versions of Core coming out this year. I think that concludes my little presentation. So any questions?
Thank you.
Yeah. Michael, didn't you have a question about where it was going? Or did he answer that for you?
I think you kind of touched on it, that ultimately it's about giving the user the choice to kind of go the direction they want. But I had more focused in on the mouse gestures and what the kind of the point was. But I think it's really the thing you were saying about giving the user the choice.
Well, mouse gestures was really something we didn't expect users to jump onto. You know, we were about 3/4 of the way through development on Core when we kind of saw, wow, this easy mouse gestures is available and it's working, and let's test it out. Let's see if we need to change anything. And you know, it worked so well with Core that we thought, let's include this. This is really awesome. If people want to use gestures, they can. And so it was an extra, something extra we added to Core. We never expected users to jump on and enjoy it as much as they did, I guess. However, I can see it's probably going to become one of the real big attractions in Core, especially for people as touchscreens become more popular. That might be something that actually becomes a very big main feature to Core. So I think it's probably something we will address and give more focus on in the future. Right now, we're currently working on a patch that will be going live soon that really addresses a couple of the issues that people have had with mouse gestures. So there is a patch coming soon, and this patch will actually reduce memory consumption of Core by 200 to 300 megabytes because we're addressing the gesture system as well as some of the other issues we've been getting info on. But there is a patch coming soon, and yeah, the system is going to run about 200 to 300 megabytes lower memory usage.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Yep. And I got a quick question with regards to your. You say you want to support everybody, every device, everything out there in terms of computers. What are you considering doing? Some sort of telemetry? Sorry, that might be a curse word to you, but any sort of telemetry, any sort of something similar to what Ubuntu Mate does, where the user has the option to submit their device information and their specific specs.
Wow. Okay. You know, I actually don't really have an answer for you on that one. Look, we take all feedback, and we welcome any new testers to our team or people that just want to test optionally and give feedback. We have we just launched now a new testing repo. Now it's not publicly made known. It's only for the testers. It's a new repo that we use where we actually send packages into this testing repo before it goes into the public repo. And so we do test, like I said, we have about 30 testers. So a lot of different hardware does get tested. We don't really have that kind of feature at the moment. I suppose it's something we could look at down the road, but we are a pretty small team. Ubuntu's been around a long time, and they have a much larger team and deeper pockets. You must remember, a lot of we don't get paid, so pretty much everybody that works on Core at the moment is just doing this in their spare time. So if it's something that we get to at some point, I suppose, yeah. Right now, no.
Jacques, I want to thank you for coming on and answering all of these questions and giving us everything we need to know about Mokoloo. It's much appreciated, man.
Sure. And all the time you've put into making it in the first place.
Yep.
Yes.
It's been about 2 years now making, I think. Look, Core was originally Lethe. But Lethe kind of heavily relied on AWN dock. That was the main dock, and we just did not feel very comfortable with that, and so we kind of evolved it into a much simpler system, while at the same time maybe a little bit more complex, but a lot simpler from a developer's point of view. Yeah, and Core was the result.
Well, I'm certainly looking forward to Ubuntu Core, because I think one of the single fastest distributions I've ever used was the Flash that you had out there a couple of years ago, based upon Ubuntu. And I don't know what you did, but you did something that increased the RAM usage, but it didn't bother to me because I got 32 gigabyte of RAM. But it made the system so responsive. It was literally click, 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 instant reaction. It was phenomenally quick.
Yeah, it always stumps me when people look at resource consumption. You know, somebody will open up, start up a distro, especially the reviewers. I notice they do this a lot. They'll open up and they go, "Oh, I love the system. It's so fast. Wow, look at this. It's great. Oh, I love what they did here." And oh no, it's using 800 megs. Ah, can't use this. And I'm like, but you just said it's probably one of the fastest you've ever tried, and now the 800 megs bothers you. You know, in this day and age, RAM consumption is not such a big issue anymore. If it's, you know, people seem to live in this, live in the Linux world where they still think everything should run on 500 megs of RAM. What's the standard PC you buy? You buy a computer now, it comes 4 gigs of RAM or more.
I love spending $80 on RAM and never wanting to use any of it. That's
I mean, I'm just my point is, PCs don't run on a gig of RAM anymore. They don't run on 500 megs of RAM anymore. Most people will run 4 gigs, at least 4 gigs of RAM in the system. I don't even own a PC that's got under 8 gigs of RAM. And so RAM consumption is something to watch, but as long as it's within a margin of your system's using less than 2 gigabytes of RAM, or, you know, when it's actually in use, we try and keep it under 1 gigabyte, and everything's running smooth, it's okay. We're happy with that. And so RAM consumption is not something we really focus heavily on, as long as within a margin of what is acceptable. We rather focus on speed and stability more than anything else. And because we build the base ourselves, we can optimize it for a lot of speed. That's the difference between building your own base and respinning a base. When you respin a base, it's almost impossible to make it faster than the original developer, because you don't have access to all that source code, all the optimizations you'd love to do. The only optimizations you can do is you can go on the internet and go, look, top 20 tips to speed up Ubuntu. That's pretty much as far as you can go, you know what I mean? And so that there was also another factor why we prefer building the base ourselves. Initially, when we made Core, we thought, okay, well, since this is a DE, maybe we should make it installable the way you install GNOME or KDE or whatever. Let the user install Core on their own system. But at the end of the day, you would be installing it on somebody else's base. And therefore, you wouldn't get the speed and the optimizations and everything else that you would on our base. And this is the reason we actually decided to do the whole distro ourselves.
I do see really low RAM consumption values sometimes, and my concern immediately is, where are you cutting corners? Because it's not worth sacrificing everything to save a bit of RAM.
If you cut too many corners, you know, okay, look at it this way. If you run nothing, you have a couple of drivers starting up and you got your window manager starting up, but pretty much nothing else, and you're running on 300 megs of RAM or 400 megs of RAM, that's great. You can see, wow, I'm only using 300 megs of RAM. Now you turn on Compiz, you turn on a Docky, you install a couple of apps, and suddenly your RAM jumps to 800 megabytes. That's going to happen no matter what the distro is.
But at least now you're having fun.
Well, you see the point. And with us, a lot of that comes turned on by default.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at like Kubuntu or another distro with low RAM consumption, they don't have half the things turned on that we do, and therefore their RAM consumption is very low. Put any of what we have on their distro, and you'll see the RAM consumption jump just as high, maybe even higher. Yeah. So yeah, the focus I think sometimes with reviewers is a little bit too much on silly things like RAM consumption when it's really within an acceptable margin. Yeah.
Yep. Totally agree.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look, we have to pick a distro challenge for next week. Does anybody have any suggestions?
I think we need to give Magea some love, because we keep putting it off and putting it off and putting it off, and they're still asking for beta testers.
Oh, what?
So, Magea, so it's still in beta. All right, so we have Magea as a one suggestion. What? Anybody else?
I was going to suggest Silent Robot's distro, Salient OS or whatever it was.
Is that ready? Does Silent? You're in the chat. Do you want us to start testing it now, or what?
He said he's still going. I think. Might be ready.
Yeah, it's offline at the moment, but he said it's going to be back out soon.
So
what is
maybe
it based on?
Arch.
It's Arch with XFCE, and then his spin on what it should look like and what applications it should have running. I've been working with him on it all week, and for me, it's now up and running and working. So I don't know if he's found any other silly little niggly bits that he wants to get sorted out. But for me, it's a good Arch install. It's nice.
All right. Anybody else?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, if you guys don't need me any further, I do have a lot of work to do.
You're more than welcome to go whenever you need to. Brother. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jacques.
Thanks
for joining us, Jacques.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much.
One other thing I would like to point out, something I wanted to just say but didn't get to. I see it here in my notes. Just an interesting fact that last year, most of last year actually, but for 4 months last year, I had my main computer broke down, and I was, I have this Acer laptop. People fall in love with their computers and they just don't feel comfortable on any other PC. Once you set on your computer, that's your PC. I don't know if you feel that way about your computer, but I do. And I have this Acer laptop that I've been using since 2011, and it's a Core i7, so it was top of the range then, and it's still a very decent machine right now. And it has a 3G port, and because I travel a lot, that little 3G SIM port, it works wonders. I can just pop in a SIM card and I'm connected to the internet. I don't have to always worry if I'm within Wi-Fi range or not. And this PC, I spilled some coffee on it, and it blew the trackpad, blew a RAM port, blew the charging pins on the battery. And for some reason, the rest of the, I never used the trackpad anyway, so it worked with a mouse, and I could only use one RAM port, so it was okay. I carried on using it, and then the hard drive cable broke, so I had a faulty trackpad. The battery wouldn't charge because the charging pins were blown, the RAM port was blown, the hard drive cable was blown, couldn't find a hard drive cable here in Vietnam, so I had to plug in my main hard drive via a USB port and boot up that way. So my point is that for about 4 months during Mokoloo Core's development, it was being built on that system, on that system.
Wow.
I was literally designing Core through a USB port plugged in hard drive, and which at the time was not even an SSD. So yeah, there were some tough times. Eventually, I ordered a main board, and I eventually got it. It took me like 4 months to get it here, but eventually I got everything up and running again. I just thought it was interesting.
It was like the Millennium Falcon of laptops.
Actually, eventually I just bought another PC because I couldn't wait any longer. And of course, Murphy's Law, you buy a second PC and then the motherboard arrives like 2 weeks later.
Yep.
But yeah,
of course.
Yeah.
Well, time to take a hint from your neighbour and finish the week's morning and put the Acer to bed.
Yeah. Sad to see it go though.
Yep.
Anyway,
I totally understand.
All right, Jacques. Thank you.
Okay, it's been fun.
Thank you.
Later.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
See ya.
Never goodbye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right. So we have Magia. Anybody else want to chime in on a distro they want to try?
We've done elementary.
Chicken, no. Come on.
Didn't Ubuntu Studio just get a big makeover?
How about a new distribution, Hamara Linux?
What is it?
It's a Debian-based distribution.
No, I mean, what's the name of it?
Hamara. It's on DistroTube. Hamara.
Let me see.
Hamara.
Oh, I think
Yeah.
I've seen it.
Is it kosher?
I don't know. I've seen it listed. I've seen
Oh,
it.
I like their website. Whoever did this is actually good at this. Nice.
Oh, All right, so
Their website was actually built in this century. It's beautiful.
It is. I like this.
I guess it was WordPress.
Wow.
It might actually be.
That's impressive. Like, it actually looks good, and it's not laggy, and it's responsive.
It's like they tried to use. It's like they tried to use Wix, but actually used good Wix for once.
Oh, another Debian based, huh? Mate desktop.
Yeah. Oh, Mate. Oh, dear Mate.
Oh, Debian based.
Do we want to do another Debian based? All right. Did Silent ever answer? Is he okay if
Yes,
we
he
try
did.
his?
No, not right now, Rocco.
Okay.
Soon.
All right.
Don't ask for a date.
Well, I think Zeb has a point. I think we should try Magia out and do the beta and give them some feedback for it.
Quick question about Hamara, real quick. Are you one of the developers?
Me?
Basant? Yeah.
Bashant?
I tried to contact the community, but they are not responsive enough. I'm interested in developing, but they're not responsive enough.
I wish there were more pictures about the actual OS on the website. I see pictures of people, but not the actual.
So much marketing fluff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I love this
How do you
website.
spell it?
Oh,
Stock footage type of thing. Stock
But
photos.
it's laid out really well.
Maybe when
Chicken, go down to the bottom of the page. There's a link for screenshots.
Is there?
Yes.
Oh, okay. In the footer. Well, I guess.
It's in the footer, but it's not in the header.
Yeah.
It's in the blog. It's on the blog. Screenshots on the blog.
Ooh, nice.
Oh, I like this.
I still haven't found it yet. How do you spell it?
Hamara.
It's the action.
Chat, please.
I mean, the word originates from Hindi, and actually, the accent is a bit different. We say Hamara.
With rolled R.
Hamara. Yeah, Hamara.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
like
what
that.
the accent is.
Yeah.
It's actually an Indian distribution, but the thing is, I have never got to try this. I just kept it in my mind. I messaged the forum that I want to help them in development, but they didn't respond me back. I don't know what happened to them.
It looks really nice, though. Like, I kind of like that.
And they have a 32-bit and a 64-bit.
Huh.
For those who still want 32-bit.
Yeah, the last blog post looks like it's from August 29th, 2018. So it looks recent. Is there any holiday right now where they're not developing at this moment? Or
They are, and the distribution is actually active, and there is a lot of development going on. But the problem is their forum is so inactive, or at least nobody wants new people to be in the forum. It's actually kind of closed, I guess.
That
Because
doesn't
when I
sound
met-
promising.
Yeah, because when I asked, because when I asked them, when I created an account in their forum, they said that they automatically flagged me as a spam account, and I needed some kind of verification to be done to be a member, and nobody was there to verify my account. Like the forum said, administrator needs to verify my account, but I waited for I think 2 months till now, and there's no administrator who verified my account, so I couldn't get into forum.
So the desktop is Mate, right?
What?
The desktop on it is Mate, right?
Yeah, it's Mate.
One of the pictures on the website under the apps tab is the GNOME desktop.
Yeah, they have the GNOME desktop and they have Mate.
I'm so confused.
They have both of them.
It does look interesting, but I kind of agree with Zeb that Magia is looking for testers.
We've put it off so much.
Yes, we have. All right, let's try Magia. We'll put Hamara on the list for some time, and Mr. Jiffy in the chat said that we should try, I don't know how to say it, Badachi. That's also one. It's supposed to be the secure OS.
I had a Tamagotchi once.
So that'll be on the list for something to try in the future as well.
Well, we can do Hamara when Vasant gets his forum login.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Wait. Just check. Just want to check. It's Vashant, right, or is it Vasant?
It's
Vasant.
Yeah, Vasant.
Vasant.
It's not Vashant. I mean, it's an Indian name, so many of the I have seen many people screw the name.
And gosh, it's only 3 years in between the two versions.
Whoa.
Oh, sugarcoat it. Scott, tell us how you really feel.
Developer
Such fast development. It's almost like
it's almost
like
XFCE like, huh?
Yeah.
Ooh. So Kadachi is also another Debian base, and we've done enough Debian tonight.
What is Magia based on?
RPM, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is it RPM?
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
Wasn't it an old fork of Mandrake as well at one time?
Yep.
Yes. As Mandrake was on its downward
spiral
descent. Yeah. I don't like spiral. That sounds like it's horrible, even though it was.
Grin.
So you mean their downward plunge?
It's kind of like in Super Mario World when you're flying and then you go straight down and it goes and it shakes the screen, kind of like that.
Yeah, plunge. Okay. Not like when you're going down into the little pipe things. Not like that little nice slow descent. It's like when you hit in midair and you're just like dead.
Yeah.
So, slight concern about the whole Magia thing. There's like a classic installer, a live installer, and a network installer. So I'm trying to figure out what the classic installer is, but the actual documentation page doesn't exist. So
because it's probably based off of Mandrake. Or Mandrake.
Not me.
I would go ahead and say like the classic installer is their traditional installer, probably very similar to what Rosa was.
Okay.
No, so it won't be Anaconda then, is that right? It won't be Anaconda installer, no?
On the actual beta page, there's a little question mark next to each. If you hover it over, it's the classic ISO's traditional way to install Magia directly. Magia, there's no end.
Yeah, like that comes up, but like traditional way doesn't explain much. Like
true.
It's the traditional way, chicken. You know,
yeah, it's original flavor.
Yeah.
No live environment to go with it. Just the install.
Tastes like chicken.
Right. The proper way to start to install a distribution, you know.
All right, so we're going to try Magia, but
sorry, Chicken, if you hover over the question mark, it explains what it does.
Oh no, I see that, but it doesn't actually explain. Like it says it's the traditional way, but it doesn't actually explain what the traditional way is, and the documentation link doesn't actually go anywhere.
Ah, right, okay.
Goes to the wiki.
Kind of
documentation. What documentation team on the wiki?
Yeah, and it says, sorry, we could not find this page.
I got the whole page displayed here. Document.
Yeah, it's displaying.
Are you in the beta? Are you on the beta page?
It's that Arizona internet that you're on. It's kind of having problems.
It must be.
I'm a little concerned, though, that it says if you have UEFI, a procedure is available on the wiki.
Yes, and it turns out it's just explaining the difference between whether you're UEFI or not. I was worried about that too. I was like,
doing all sorts of weird, funky things to get it working on UEFI.
Oh, those are always scary. Oh,
like you have to do with the Radeon 7. Oh, no UEFI.
Oh, gosh, I know that's all that drives me nuts. I feel bad for Dust.
Geek.
Shots over the bow.
Before we even start.
Hey! He's not even here, so don't even try.
He doesn't. It don't matter.
Oh, don't worry about it.
It's fine.
I don't think those shots are over the bow.
Linux.
I'm sure they would throw me under the bus even if I weren't here.
We throw you under the bus when you are here, Thomas.
Yeah,
I know. It's fine. It's fun.
All right, so we're going to try Magia, and Mokoloo took up a lot of time this week, so that we don't have much time left. But I do have an announcement to make, and Zeb has an announcement to make. So I will go first. We are switching the time for Biddle. Okay, back one more hour to 8 o'clock.
Yay!
All right, so it'll be 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. You'll have to figure that out wherever you are.
That is
what it
3
is.
a.m. UTC because we are not animals, Rocco.
Standards minus
Who
5.
uses UTC, dude?
Nobody.
No normal person uses UTC.
Only if you live in.
No normal person.
Servers use UTC.
Yeah, exactly. So it'll be 8 p.m. Eastern. This is to, number one, help the schedule out, and number two, to allow people to finish the show without being so tired they can't make it.
And
right, so from this point on, starting next week, 8 p.m.
Thank you.
What he's really trying to say is he
Thanks,
wants to play Ballistic Overkill after the stream, and he.
Well, that's always a plus, chicken. I mean, that's always a plus. If we get more block time.
Rocco, I think you're getting a little bit old. Is it starting to get a little bit tired?
They're on to you, Rocco.
What do you mean starting to? Do you see the beard, dude? I mean, what do you mean starting?
I mean, I got a beard too. I just shaved it.
They're on to you, Rocco.
I know.
For those
know.
in Europe and the UK, that's 1 a.m. UK time, probably 2 a.m. European time.
Central European and 2 a.m. Yeah.
Don't you guys in America have your clocks moving forward again shortly? So that will muck us up.
In March.
March 16th.
Another month.
It is.
We don't go
No, wait, no, you're right for.
It'll be even earlier.
Hold on. Stop. Everybody can't talk at once because nobody can
Daylight savings
anything.
time is stupid.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Zeb.
Yeah, I was going to say, you guys go forward. No, hang on. Leap forward. So you guys go forward an hour. So temporarily, we'll be back to 2 o'clock until we go forward. Or we'll
Those darn Americans, I swear.
Right.
Anyway, just be aware in Europe that when they do change, we'll be off kilter by an hour. And I can never remember whether it's forwards or backwards.
It's back. You go back an hour because
spring
forward, fall back.
Fall back. Right, gotcha.
Yeah.
When we lose an hour.
So the other announcement is that Rocco and I have been chatting, and we had such a blast the other week when we did a European version of Biddle that we are now going to do one monthly. And it's going to be on the second Tuesday of every month.
Saturday.
And it's going to be 9 p.m. UK time.
Second Saturday of every month.
Oh, of course it is. Did I say this?
It's going to interfere with my show every
Where did I get Tuesday?
I was gonna say I'm at work on a Tuesday.
No. The second. Where did I get Tuesday? Senior moment. Sorry, guys.
I was going to say.
Yeah. So second Saturday of every month, and it'll be 9 p.m. UK time, so you can work out what time zone that is.
See you on Tuesday, Rocco.
Tuesday.
On Tuesday, yeah. Maybe I was getting confused with Steve's one, which we do on a Wednesday, but hey.
All right, so the next that would make the next Biddle European edition March 10th at 3 p.m. Eastern. Whatever time that be, whatever that time is for you guys.
9 UTC.
1 in
Nobody uses UTC.
Thank you, Michael. I love
Michael
UTC.
probably uses UTC.
Yes.
So you can
occasionally do.
pretty much the reason we picked the second Saturday of the month is so that anybody that wanted to attend could mark it on their calendar ahead of time. That way they know, I don't want to pick a specific date this is going to happen, but from now on the second Saturday of the month will be a Biddle European edition.
Nice. Cool.
So if I put on a British accent, can I join, or how does
everybody
that work?
is welcome in all the Biddles? Okay, so everybody's welcome here, and everybody is welcome there. I actually had a comment on the YouTube video that said something like that. Why is this the Europe edition? There's half the people are
half you guys are American.
Yeah, like
well,
because everybody is
expect
welcome.
me to be up at 3 p.m. Come on.
So I was always the British conference anyway.
Yeah,
what's
I
that, Peter?
Double dip next month.
And the Aussies, the British convicts anyway.
Wow,
pretty much.
Colin, he's talking about you, brother.
I always found that hilarious that they would put their prisoners in a place
Explorer
nicer than their own place.
Actually, technically, where I'm from, we're technically an anti-debtors prison place, so there's that.
So there you go. There's the news. 8 o'clock for Biddle from now on, and second Saturday of the month for Biddle European edition.
Just to confirm, what time does the European one start?
3 p.m.
Same time?
Eastern.
3 p.m.
Eastern. So
what,
I don't know what that would be for. I guess that would be.
What time is that?
Be 8 o'clock UK time right now.
UTC.
Yeah,
so
all right. Stop. Stop.
5 hours from
This is
whatever
ridiculous. There's no reason for people to do this. You hear other people talking. It doesn't make any sense because nobody can hear anything. One at a time, please. Please. Okay. 3 p.m. Eastern, 8 o'clock UK time right now at this moment. So, all right. How about everybody get a last word? How about that?
At the same time.
Zeb, last word.
Last word. Catch this week's episode of Destination Linux, which will be coming out as soon as Michael's gone through the huge amount of editing the poor chap's got to do, because it was quite a busy episode. And for those of you who are in Team Green, you'll see me having lots of fun with Dustgeek. I wonder why.
I wish I could have been there. All right, Michael, you're up. Last word.
Yeah, thanks for the stream as always, and I will see y'all again hopefully next week.
Dig it, Paul.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Great show.
All right, Peter.
I'm just surprised Das Geek's not here showing off his Radeon 7 empty box.
More shots over the bow. Vasanth, last word.
Hamara Linux maybe next week, I guess.
Possibly.
Possibly. No promises.
Okay.
Maybe.
Let's see. I mean, I've just shown you the distribution. You got to decide when you have to test it.
Yeah. It's just that we've done an awful lot of Debians just recently, so we're just trying to mix it up. But yeah, it's on the list.
Thomas, last word.
Okay. Well, since he's actually here this week, so I can say it to his face, thank you to Chicken for helping out with DruggerOS development. In that same thread, check out DruggerOS at druggeros.ml. Yeah.
All right, Barbara, last word.
Okay, I just want to thank everyone. This was actually a lot of fun tonight. Interesting. It really was.
Nice. I agree. Mm-hmm. And Big Pod, you are muted, but your last word.
Hopefully, next EU edition, I will have my laptop back. So until then, I probably won't be around.
Right.
Because probably just my phone for a month or two.
Well, you can join Zoom through your phone, just so you know.
Yeah, I know that, but it would be kind of weird.
Okay. Colin, last word.
Yeah, thanks, Rocco. This stream's always great, and I really found Jacques' input tonight really interesting, just his insight to his core edition, so that was really cool. So, looking forward to trying Mageia next week and see how we go. So still catching up on videos still got a video to release for Tumbleweed. So looking forward to all these distro hops. It's great fun. So thanks again, Rocco. It's good.
Tyler, last word.
It was fun listening tonight, and it'll be interesting to try Mageia.
I think it will be interesting. I'll just leave it at that. Chicken, last word.
Hi.
Yeah, hi.
It was good to be back. I have been here for a while, and then now I'm here, and hopefully I'll survive long enough for the next one.
Too many CSGO videos.
Too many. Just wait till this week.
Scott, last word.
Always a great show, Rocco. I'm going to continue to play with Mokoloo. I actually like it pretty good, and try some of the fixes you guys suggested and get that worked out. And I'm also going to try out the Mageia this week. And also, as far as the time zone issues, since we've got 24 wrapped around the blue marble, might want to try something like swatch time so that nobody has to do any calculations for time zones or anything.
Yeah, but then you have to explain it.
Yeah, what?
Yeah, that's a tough one. It's almost 2 times 2.
Yes, but most people aren't going to use that.
Is that when they
We'll
tried
check
to
it
make
out.
Esperanto, the one language that everybody spoke, and everybody went, well, what's
Esperanto.
Esperanto?
See, this is why I did it. Why I put it even in the title. I put Eastern Standard Time because then you can figure out what time that is. That's why they make Google.
Google, our friend.
Nate, last word.
Hey, thanks again for having me. I think it's awesome that you got Jacques on there that we could actually bounce things off of him. That was fantastic. And also you can check me out at tuxdigital.com/cubiclenate.
Yes, I love it. Dave, last word.
Thank you, Rocco. Thank you, Zeb. And I look forward to more Biddle European editions.
Pete, last word.
It was good to be back. We should use UTC because that would make things easier for me.
Oh, man.
Because I use UTC all the time.
Who uses UTC, Pete?
Occasionally.
Every computer I have has UTC.
Wow.
Watch,
Okay.
box, everything.
I'll figure that out and telegram that to you. Okay.
Then we're gonna have to worry about the 24-hour clock. We're gonna start using that.
All right, Adam. Last word.
Thanks for putting this on, and everybody should check out the soundtrack to the game Celeste. I've been listening to that all night, and it's magnificent. So check that out.
Check it out. Frank, last word.
I just want to thank you, Rocco, and I want to thank Jacques for coming on. And it's really interesting when you have people like Simon and Dolphin and everyone that's willing to come on and take the criticism and tell us about their distro. It's incredible to hear from them, and that's pretty. And one thing is, congratulations to Nate, and also I didn't blow away my OpenSUSE install, so I still have it.
Good job.
Congratulations to Nate for what?
For losing. I mean, winning. No, I didn't make.
I mean, you went and put out your name and really tried to do something very important, and that is awesome to do, man.
Did the vote come down?
Well, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
was.
did. I got.
Yesterday.
Go on, Nate.
Nate.
Tell us what happened.
I didn't win, but it's okay because I got to meet actually a lot of people in the community, and it was actually a win for me personally.
Dude,
and that now I'm.
You took a risk and did something, man. People don't do that, and that is awesome to do.
Well, it's also he was the first time he tried, and he got like 25% of the vote, which is pretty high when you're trying to get electorate votes from a board members. So,
especially when it's not an open public vote either.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
because I would have voted 7 times.
Yeah.
What are you from Chicago or something?
No, really from Chicago. He like went to the cemetery to get the rest of the votes he needed.
This is true. Ritual. Last word, brother.
Well, just wanted to say thanks to you, Rocco, for inviting me on the show. After I don't even know how long, it's been like a year and a half, I think, since I've been watching the show. You were actually your channel, and when you were doing Destination Linux, those were like probably a couple of my first channels that I subscribed to when I started Linux. So yeah, thanks for having me. I feel I've been a lurker for so long, so
appreciate it, brother.
And also that guy Jacques, I had no idea that he was a dev for was it Mokoloo?
Mm-hmm.
I hope I didn't come off as snooty. Like I use a tiling window manager, that's why I'm kind of
No, you were fine,
mouse driven. But I do use EasyStroke, and which is a mouse gesture program for Linux. Like I use a lot of mouse gestures and keyboard driven things, but from everything that he said, that distro actually sounds kind of interesting. I might have to go back and try it sometime once I get VirtualBox going, because I can get try to jump on the distro hopping bandwagon again and try Magia out next week. So thank you, Rocco, and thanks. It is a pleasure joining all of you. It was a little weird, but I think it's cool. Thank you, guys.
Awesome, brother. JJ, last word.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for what you do with the stream, and hopefully, if there are some people left after this stream, we can discuss stuff in the Discord after Rocco shuts down the Zoom. Just FYI to everybody who doesn't know.
Hint.
Also, I'm sort of on my own distro hopping journey. I'm thinking about trying out Ubuntu Budgie again since it's got an 1810 version. But I'm currently on Kubuntu, which is somewhat been the stablest Ubuntu version I've used so far. So
Ubuntu's a good choice.
Yeah, so I'll see where that goes. Anyway, you know where to find me, and yeah.
All right, Chris, last word.
No, I was happy that Jacques was able to help or be able to join us tonight. I thought added a lot of depth to the conversation rather than us just spouting off, actually hearing from the developer. That was really good. And then I'm also enjoying Tyler's kitty cam here while we see you guys next week, and I'll probably stick around, be on the Discord server a little bit later tonight, installing Manjaro here, or not Manjaro, current distro that we're saying. Mageia, thank you.
Go, last word, brother.
Well, thank you for letting me in so late in the show as usual. But actually, I was kind of very torn tonight because I sent you some notes on it, but I felt like I still wasn't enough. I don't know if you had a chance to see them or not, but it was a very interesting distro. I had a few things that were a little confusing to me or whatever, but I could see a lot of potential in that distro. It was very cool. I still have it. I think I'm going to keep that on and play with it a little while longer. There's a few things I want to figure out with it. But anyway, the reason I wasn't here is I was a little bit torn, but because Carmine and Total OS today, he's been doing this series he started with the Ubuntu standard, like to try to see if he can get a push to see if there ever could be basically walk in the store, get a $400 machine that would be Ubuntu run and, that kind of thing. And, the only way to do that is get the word out. So I promised I went and jumped over there tonight with him. He was supposed to do it tomorrow. And I said, well, I'll kind of forego Biddle tonight, which was very hard because, like I said, I enjoy these discussions. There's so much to be learned here too. But I also feel it's important to get the word out about any Linux distro. But Ubuntu is the one that everybody knows. Ubuntu is the one that's, supposedly being loved now by Microsoft, and I still think that we need to get ahead of them if we're going to get something on the shelves for people, that the everyday user, that kind of thing. So that's where I was tonight. That's why I was late. I'd like to think that was a good excuse for not making it tonight. But anyway, as always, I enjoy this. Thank you for having us. I really would like to see if I can make it to the UK show too, because I know there's a lot of wonderful people from around this world that we've gotten to know, and everybody's thoughts and opinions on every part of this is not only valuable, but it's fun too, so thank you again. I know it was a little bit long-winded, but again, making up for a little bit of the time I wasn't here. So hopefully see you guys all next week.
Take it. Michael, last word.
Team Red. I got an AMD card
That's
coming.
It? What AMD card?
Vegas 64.
Wow.
Michael's never wrong, so it's good.
Wow.
Right. Exactly.
That's wrong this time.
Yeah, he'll be wrong with
Well, yeah, we'll see. Well, I might be wrong. We'll see.
You're not going to get it.
For 10 seconds.
But what's not wrong is having a cat cam, because that's how you get views on YouTube.
Tyler, are you there? We're swinging.
I am.
All right, last word, brother.
Meow.
Wow.
Perfect. It's just perfect.
Perfect.
All right. I want to thank Jacques for all that he did for and is doing for Mokoloo.
Yeah.
Thank you all for showing up. Appreciate it. I am Big Daddy Links. Thank you for watching. And remember, long live Linux.
See you, everyone.
Good night.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yes.
Stay out.
Bye.
Bye.
Drive safe.